And it is now recording.
Okay, I have been intermittently volunteering with this group, so I'm just going to give a little backstory before I go into the topic that Ellen and I had a side conversation a couple weeks ago about. So I work for the state of Minnesota, and I in particular work with people with disabilities in career exploration along with career paths. And that was kind of the topic Ellen and I decided would be good to present to this group in regards to kind of the holistic picture, not just finding that job, but also the pieces that go with that beyond the immediacy of need for employment. So I was telling him one of my backstories, which I think lays this out pretty well, and it's comical maybe now, it wasn't so much then. About 10 years ago, I was in the process of a life transition of myself. It was related to divorce, and I needed to find a different job because working with kids and taking care of my own three was not going to make it a happy living situation. So I decided to do some career exploration myself, and I ended up getting a couple different opportunities presented to me in regards to supporting people with disabilities. And of the three, I actually took the lowest paying one, but there was a reason for it. The reason had to do with a schedule that would allow me to avoid daycare costs with my kids, and it had a company that I could see potential for growth. So it wasn't by any stretch the most ideal job. It certainly didn't need my college education to get it, but at the same time, it was going to be a possibility to grow. And with that, what happened is, and this is the comical part, I had been doing a job search because I was at that point where I needed to start making more based on the needs of my family. And I had a job offer. So I went and talked to my boss and I said, I don't really want to leave, can't really afford to stay. He goes, what would it take to have you stay? I said, a change in job title and a match in pay from the other employer. Well, wouldn't you know, I went out on site to go work and I broke my foot. So I ended up being a workers' comp case that particular morning, not just, having a possible other job, but now I'm in a different situation where other employment's not looking as appealing since I have a broken foot and I lived in Duluth and it was the middle of winter. So long story short is my HR director had called and I thought it was in regards to the workers' comp claim. And he's like, have you talked to your supervisor? And I had not at that time. So he transferred me and I found out I had gotten a promotion. Not even the one I asked for, it was 2 levels above. And he had been called out of a meeting to go transport me to the hospital due to my broken foot. That was in regards to that. So that's the backstory of kind of where this conversation came from. Not only do I help people professionally, but it is part of my own personal story about career path and exploration. So with that being said, a lot of when we are looking at those life transitions, of course, our bottom line is we have to pay our bills, but there's so much more. It's navigating yourself and positioning yourself on where you want to go. And sometimes that's a really big task and there's not a whole lot of known elements. So it's starting to look at what skills you might need to develop or what skills you have and where does that apply? And then is it something where you want to stay in that industry or do you want to transfer them to a different industry? Obviously, all of you who have been in the services have a wealth of skills, but the civilian world has so many different companies and opportunities, it's hard to navigate. So that's where this group is great to be able to provide some of that feedback and support on where those skills can be transferable. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about lateral moves as well as part of that career path exploration. In reality, lots of times when you look at moves in a company, it can be a lateral that can turn into advancement opportunities. Similar with my broken foot story, when I moved back to the Twin Cities, I put my job resume out there, was recruited into the position I took, but then I took a lateral move. I didn't make any more, and actually I took a change in job title down a level. I made the same rate of pay because rate of pays between Duluth and Twin Cities are different, but I went into a lower level that eventually advanced me into a different employer, into a director. I knew the skill set I was going to gain from that position was more important than the change to keep that maintaining of job title because I knew the job market was different in the Twin Cities. So all that being said, it's really, I know my personal story, but when you do look at those particular elements as you move forward in job search and or are looking at a transferring or any other pieces, because we all can get tired of careers. It doesn't have to just be a life transition move. Those are things that I would recommend considering. Not only where are your skills, where do you want to go? And not always looking at just the immediacy, but the bigger picture. Where can this path take me? So that is my own kind of personal story with a little bit of caveats, talking points that Alan and I had discussed a couple weeks ago. But I'd love to open it up for questions, or if anyone has any thoughts or wants to talk more about how you go about that career pathing, by all means, you can reach out to me directly, or we can have it on an open forum during this meeting as well. So,
impressive.
Heather, oh, is somebody asking? Will you tell us just a little bit more about the work that you do that might, how you might help some of the veterans we might bring to you in ways that they wouldn't if they worked with DevOps, for instance, at Career Force?
Sure. So in my situation, the population I support during my, I'll put this in air quotes because there is no such thing as really off time with what I do, 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, are disability related. However, what I do as far as like what my job scope does, and it can be applicable to anyone, no matter what their, if you will, reason for qualifying for things are, because I do this outside of work hours too, are job shadows. So looking at where and what different areas may apply, doing exploration through interest inventories, through other things of that nature, but also then looking at that career pathing. Let's say you have a job goal that you're going to need some experience to get there, but it's talking about what steps and what jobs in between would be a great, if you will, building block process. I'm also in grad school for career counseling, so as I move forward, there'll be a whole lot more of opportunities for me to learn about other assessments and techniques, but I'm only in week 3, so that's not completed yet.
This is, oh, go ahead, Mike. Did you have a question? Oh, this is Alan. I wanted, can you explain a little bit more? You mentioned term interest surveys or interest assessments. Can you kind of explain what that is for everyone?
Sure. So I'm not going to mention every single type that exists out there, but there are, Minnesota Career Information System has some interest inventories that are based on just your interests, but there are other ones where it is based on your skills as well. I can't remember the other one off the top of my head because everything's an acronym world in my desktop, and I probably dig too far to find it. But there also are at times where even your Myers-Briggs can be utilized and to talk about work environment and other, if you will, cultural, and I mean work culture by that, elements, not just what you like to do for a living. But those are some. There's a whole list of them, but in interest of not digging on my desktop and not focusing, I will send them to you separately later.
And is those are best if there's somebody there to talk them through the results. I mean, Correct. You can do it online and self-service kind of a thing and kind of get an idea, but it's always nice to have somebody guiding the conversation to say, and you might want to look at this position because based on my experience, this is what people are hiring for in this area.
Yeah, we have one that's called the Career Scope that combines the assessment elements and the interest. It's a longer one, and then it kind of highlights different, if you will, levels of education with it too. So it not just talks about the job scope of duties, but also what the educational requirements would be for those.
Nice. So any other questions for Heather or general insights on sort of the job search topics that are questions for you?
I just really enjoyed your story. And how
And I'll
you-
put my email out in chat, by the way. I've realized not everyone would probably just have it. And I'm sharing my personal, not my work one, not for any other reason other than I try not to look at my email off of work hours.
Good.
Try, it's the operative word there.
What were you going to say, Patrick?
I was just saying how I was, you know, pretty impressed with the story and the path that you took, and you know, you just adapted and went for it, and I'm glad it worked out for you. So
Yeah, I should share the finals chapters. Those were a couple jobs ago, so just because I think it will be interesting to those. So I told myself I was never coming back to this field after I was a director. We both see how well that worked. And I went into corporate disability side of things. So I did short-term and long-term disability case management for Johnson & Johnson through a third party. And I said I was never coming back, but I missed it. So then I ended up going to one of my colleagues' smaller business, and I kind of put my foot back in the water, and I was recruited to the state. And now I don't care at all if I share this. The federal government and state combo is paying for my master's. So my rate of pays did not always escalate, but the career journey has been definitely one that's going to take me further than just the paycheck.
great benefit.
Well, and there's a lot to be said for satisfaction of the job, right? When you know you're doing something greater than yourself, rather than just showing up for a paycheck.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a similar story to Heather's, and I was working commercial construction, and I went to school for it. And, you know, it's the Latin term sagitta. You know, sometimes we have to draw back in order to move forward. And I'm a firm believer. I took a $26,000 pay cut to do this, and it was the best choice I ever made. Find and do what you love. It's not about a paycheck. I have less stress now and love the people I work with. This is my community.
Yeah. You know, and I think that's a good word, Zach, that I need to use more when I'm coaching vets is don't just find a job, find your community, right?
Yeah. That's, I think, the biggest thing that, you know, we as veterans, when we get out, that we struggle with, and I know that that's where there's a lot of, you know, the suicide statistics is when you get out, you lose your tribe, and it hurts, and you feel lost. And I mean, I can remember when I got out being in tears, talking to my cousin and just being like, I don't know anybody back here. I don't have friends anymore back here. Everybody's moved on. And I mean, I almost was a statistic. And you know, then I've found my place, and it takes time, but it's the same thing with the job. Everybody that I met from the Career Force Center and working with Heather down in Shakopee and the people in Chaska and Bloomington all last year was just, I mean, it just completely built me back up into, you know, who I wanted to be. So, and now I get to be with the wonderful MacV.
Hey, Zach, I guess before I do that, I was going to have you introduce MacV because we have some people who may not know about that. But before I do that, I want to make sure I close out this recording and close out the topic. Heather, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that, or is there any other questions anybody had or feedback?
I would just, to promote Heather, if you guys have questions and stuff, lean on her, ask questions. She and I would sit and talk for literally like an hour or more. And I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know about what she does and how she can help. So, you know, do a one-on-one with her or something. It was extremely helpful for me, and she's still connected with Scott and Ryan and myself. We still do great stuff together.
Absolutely.
Great.
And I would say that you guys also help facilitate my knowledge base. People don't exist in a vacuum, and they're not just labels. So please do reach out to me, and in reverse, please be generous when I reach out and ask questions, because I am by far still learning. And I feel like that's one of the greatest collaborations that can exist, is when you both are in this growing process together.